Are you interested to know how the Free State Project has had a mass migration of more than 20,000 people who have pledged to move to New Hampshire for liberty? By concentrating their numbers in a single state where they are maximizing their impact as entrepreneurs, activists, community builders, and thought leaders? Stay tuned for this episode of KEAL. On this episode of KEAL, I have the honor of having Carla Gericke on, who is the president and board member. Is that correct?
Yes, I am the President Emeritus and chairman, I guess, of the board.
She is extremely important. Let's just know that. The Free State Project out of New Hampshire. And Carla, I'm so honored to have you on this episode of KEAL because being a U.S. citizen, living abroad, living in Mexico, and having a lot of other friends who live in parts of Europe, Africa, and Asia, when they hear about different, themes and cultural issues and different topics of interest going on back home in the U.S., there's always something once in a while that strikes a very deep interest of, okay, well, what is really going on there in that place, in that city, in that town, in that state, and what is this all about? And when I came across the Free State Project, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't every state free in the United States? I'm like, I was a little confused. What's going on here? So, so I looked up on the website, and then I was like, how are these people are coming, 20,000 plus more people, migrating, and they're creating these type of communities, liberty-minded people wanting to be free, etc. So just, if you could please explain to our global audience, what in the world is the Free State Project? What is its mission and values? And what are you really all about? Can you go into that, Carla?
Sure. Yeah. So the Free State Project, for folks who don't know, is a mass migration movement of people to the great state of New Hampshire, which is up here in the Northeast in America, just south of Maine. New Hampshire was partly chosen because it would be a perfect little country, by which I mean we have mountains, we have a seacoast, we have rural and city. It was chosen for several reasons, including the fact that it's a very low tax state. There's no sales tax, there's no personal income state tax, and there's a great quality of living. So basically what we're trying to do is liberty lovers or libertarians, especially in America, are sort of dispersed all over the country, which means that, no one ever gets anywhere. We've all heard the sayings like safety in numbers, and if you concentrate together, maybe you could get something done. And so about 20 years ago, this guy called Jason Sarnes was like, what would happen if we concentrated together? So he seeded the idea out on the internet, which now sounds quaint, but back then it was a big deal, and put this essay out on the internet, and people it really, really resonated with people all over the world. And folks were like, that sounds like a really cool and interesting idea. I wonder what would happen if we were to concentrate people in one state to really try and preserve the liberties, we find in America and certainly here in New Hampshire. So in a nutshell, we're trying to concentrate people who really value liberty as their, I would say, number one or number two sort of driving force for their lives, their principles. And we want them to come here to New Hampshire and kind of stand with us and say, you know what, liberty is important, freedom is important. We seem to be forgetting that, and just really show people by way of example that these ideas can work. What are these ideas? They're basically the ideas that, property rights matter. You should be responsible for yourself. So, living off charity, that should be a personal choice between us as opposed to sort of a mandated thing, right? And that, we want to live free or die, which is the state's awesome slogan. So, doesn't always play well in a pandemic. So I like to say live free and thrive, but that's basically the thrust. Come here, come help us build a really genuine free future.
Carla, it seems so fascinating, the idea of having a concentration of people that value those ideas and principles and way of living. I think it's quite fascinating. And I'm curious, especially since last year, it seems not only just in the United States, but in many parts of the world, there's been deep polarizations of people seeing one way of the world versus another, and a lot more clashes and strife going on, I think, now than most times in recent memory in history, between different groups of people all around the world. And I'm curious, like, do you find in New Hampshire that whatever way you really see the world on, let's say, quote unquote, a left or right side, people still come for a deeper, more common interest and common like value of way of living to kind of that supersedes whatever maybe political beliefs they may have or social moral beliefs, but they come for a more common interest and get together and more communally in that way?
Yeah, so I would say people who are moving to New Hampshire are attracted to probably the live and let live ethos that's here. And then honestly, they're attracted to the quality of living. This is an incredible state to raise children. We have a really strong school choice program. So we are seeing a lot of people kind of come in. I think for most free staters, they've pretty much given up, I think, on politics on a federal level, to be honest. I think most of us are pretty disillusioned by, this left-right paradigm and this constant, being thrust in one direction and then thrust in the other one. And, we're just kind of looking at it from 1,000 foot above, I think, where we're just going, well, that seems a little crazy. So we're saying like 51% of people every other year gets to tell the other 49% of people, with these massive swings. And I think part of the disenchantment that people are feeling is actually because the government is too big, right? It is the problem is baked into the way the politics are right now. And so the solution is more decentralization. The solution is more states' rights. President Trump said, make America great again. And I was like, no, make America states again, right? So on a federal level, we were supposed to be all these different states that would compete, and then we would see which ideas were better ideas, and then we would kind of try and, spread good ideas that way. And really, we've seen now this all-powerful DC that sort of at this stage, we certainly saw over the last year, mandating things that go against, just people's either personal beliefs, their body autonomy, the overswing is so big now. I moved in 2008. I heard about the Free State Project in 2003, and I was awakened back then because of economic reasons that had to do with, monetary expansion that we're seeing now, which, we see with the inflation and gas prices going up and shortages and all of that, right? So that's the money printing that we're seeing now. But we were already seeing those kinds of problems 20 years ago. So, people jokingly say, wow, you must be prescient. And I'm like, no, I'm a nerd and I like to read a lot. So that certainly has helped. But it's very validating to sort of see, I feel like, a bunch of people sort of identified these problems a while ago, and now we're really seeing a deepening of those problems and a deep manifestation. So for most of us, we know fixing DC is probably too hard. It is, you're talking about massive amounts of money. So the level of corruption there is just, in my opinion, insurmountable. But in New Hampshire, which is a state with 1.2 million people, it's fairly homogenous in the sense that, it's a northern New England region. And so I think a lot of people are looking at the value proposition of New Hampshire. They're saying, what is a safe state that I could raise a family, where I could still afford a house, although I have to tell you, 2021 has not been kind to the people who didn't move early. But yeah, I would say the people move here are concentrating because they realize they can't win on a federal level. And so we're solution driven. And so we want to see, can we do something on a state level that can actually keep the best of American values, and build America 2.0.
It's such a unbelievable unique model and project and just idea. I think for anyone hearing this in whatever part of the world, like what in the world is this true? What is going on? And I'm curious because you're originally from, I found out, South Africa, which is fascinating. Now you're seeing this way of life also through a different lens as well. And you've lived in other states. So you really have an idea how important this type of project is for you and other people that live there. Right. And I'm curious, like, because New Hampshire is not really geographically a large state as well, you want to invite people in, but I'm curious, like, are you going to try to, is this project trying to also have a cap about with the amount of people that come in just because of the size, especially geographically of this, or are you just anyone that can come whenever and however?
No, so I mean, the market caps things, right? So currently in New Hampshire, we have a housing crisis in the sense that there are more people who want to move here than there's actual available housing. Now, certainly that is something that activists who've been here a long time have been looking at, right? So it's an American problem. It stems out of NIMBYism, not in my backyardism, plus zoning, right? And at some stage, we gave these zoning boards incredible power, and we sort of started to circumvent or take away actual property rights of property owners, right? It became much more communitarian in the sense of, oh, we're all going to decide together. Free Staters have been working and have actually been elected to the legislature. That's one of those interesting things. So the Free State Project itself is likened to a bus. So we are the vehicle that helps to bring people to New Hampshire. So we explain to folks, what's the value proposition? Why do you want to live here? What's awesome about New Hampshire? And I can go on ad nauseum about that. But once folks get here, they actually, as individuals, do all kinds of crazy, cool stuff, right? Some people start homeschooling schools, some do unschooling, some people have started actual charter schools. We have a lot of crypto businesses. There's real estate, there's startups. One of the bills that a lot of people worked on early on, 10, 12 years ago, was a microbrewery bill. So we really changed how breweries work in New Hampshire and really liberalized that market. So you get a lot of like really cool beers here and different meads and all kinds of rum and there are a ton of distilleries that opened. So it's very artisanal and very small business minded in the sense that I think a lot of people who come want to come and start something and do something. So that's, I forget actually what the original question was.
But you invite a lot of interesting people in, a lot of different people to come in and start something of their own volition, which I think is really healthy for building a middle class and small businesses. So you're not really trying to cap off the amount of people coming. And you said, the market dictates as well how far or how low things go. And that's very understandable. And I'm really curious, for me, this, in my mind, this is becoming one of the more difficult things to try to understand is you value what you describe as liberty more than anything in the state, and people really have this a more sort of autonomy, a way of living, and then they naturally just are communal and help other people and everything of that nature. But so how in the world do they govern in a certain way in New Hampshire? What I mean by that is state legislatures and then your congressional representatives. How does that dynamic, keeping in line the principles, what you're talking about with the Free State Project, how does that balance stay intact with everything that comes, like you said, from Washington, D.C. and everything that may influence that to a certain degree in New Hampshire, and then keeping in line everything that you want to hold true to the Free State Project to not have quote unquote overreach? How does that dynamic work?
Yeah, so it's interesting. And in some ways, it's really the dynamic between the power of the federal government versus states' rights, right? So one of the reasons New Hampshire was originally chosen is it has one of the largest legislatures in the English-speaking world. I think it's the third largest in the world. So in New Hampshire, we have a House of Representatives has 400 members, which means that each rep pretty much represents 3,700 people, which means that you know your rep. Your rep is on your speed dial. You see your rep at the grocery store, right? So it really truly is a little more representative than, you know, the big states, the Illinois and the Californias and the New York states, right? Because it truly is a citizen legislature. You know, we have the motto, live free or die. I think it is something that is truly in the ethos of the people. People will say it's too cold, I can't move there. And I'm like, well, the cold actually helps in some ways because, you know, my neighbor across the street, she's probably, you know, close to in her 80s, and she still climbs on the roof to put up her own Christmas lights. You know, so the people up here are genuinely sort of rugged and take no nonsense and individualists. So I think we chose the right state. The problem with the federal government, honestly, is just, again, we're back to monetary expansion, right? So now that they're printing so much money, there's all this money that is being flooded into the states through grants and through things that then come with, bells and whistles and things we have to do. Up until probably 5 years ago, New Hampshire was a net payer to the federal government, which means our state actually paid in more federal taxes than we were getting back. So we truly were kind of independent, right? Because of what we saw over the last couple of years with the corona fascism that's sort of arisen and this insane amount of money that they've printed. And it's the left and the right. I'm team neither because I'm just like, Trump printed a lot, Biden's printing a lot, trillions to millions. Sometimes people forget the magnitude of that, but I love to say this, so I'm just going to say it quickly. 1 million seconds in time is 12 days. 1 billion seconds is 31 years. 1 trillion seconds is 31,688 years. So the magnitude from 1 billion to 1 trillion, which we just jumped over this last year, where everyone just kind of went from, we forget the 2008 bailout was only $600 billion. And people were like, that's bananas. Now we're up to 7, 8, 10 trillion. Again, the magnitude there. So we're in funny money times, right? I think genuinely, I'm preparing for a dollar collapse. And I think a lot of people, not to be bleak, because honestly, the project is what gives me hope. I feel like I made a plan. I said, I think these things are about to happen. What can I do as an individual to hedge against it, but also to hedge in a way that's smart with other people who understand the problem, right? You don't want to be the only guy in the neighborhood who's like, things are bad. What are we going to do? You want to be together with people who can not only identify the problem, but offer solutions and make sure that we are going to have some kind of good future going forward. So I hedged my bets. 2008 was when I moved out here. I encourage people to move. New Hampshire's still affordable. It's not Silicon Valley prices, but it's starting to get there. I think one of the interesting things we're seeing is that people are starting to migrate according to their values. There's been a giant exodus out of California to Texas. I'm like, y'all stay over there. That's fine. We'll take the libertarians from our surrounding states as a good starting point. Yeah. And then I think we'll just start to build. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what's going to happen if you succeed? And I'm like, well, then we're going to be really popular, right? And there will be challenges that will come with that. But I'm a free marketeer, and I believe that, if you allow more freedom, I don't just believe it. Actually, the data supports my position that freedom actually leads to more prosperity. Yeah. We forget that the natural state of being human, the natural human condition is poverty. Yeah. Anything where you're not poor is already a step in the right direction. Right. And so, we have all these people out there they're doom and gloom and naysayers, and they tell you can't, and you're a loser, and you're a victim, and you're all those things. And I'm like, we're none of those things. Human beings are exceptional, and I think that we're building an exceptional thing here in New Hampshire, and we want the people to come, because here's the other thing. If we can build this beacon of liberty for people to see it works, right? To remind people, we know we've just forgotten, right? There are examples in history. And so, we're going to have to remind people that actually human freedom leads to human flourishing. And so I want to be part of a state and a movement and in a community of people who know and understand that, who can go and show other people, hey guys, this is possible. The sky's the limit. Really, we are only limited by our own lack of imagination.
No, and that's really powerful, Carla. And that's the point, is like, you don't need to have this project, for example, be started in a Texas or a California or a Florida, like where these land masses and these population sizes are just gigantic, right? It doesn't require that. There's one beacon of hope in let's call it a sliver of the United States, like New Hampshire, who's actually, I think, really surrounded by other states that are really doing the antithesis of what you're doing. But you are enough of an example to show, look, with this situation, with a robust sort of ground up, businesses that are coming up that create a buoyant economy, with these kind of ideals of freedom and liberty and like just bringing our own selves, getting past dogmas and whatever else, but bringing everyone together for a common good. If you can really just demonstrate that, I mean, that's going to permeate really throughout the world. I honestly believe that. Any country, right? Any country's going to say, wait a minute, look at that. They're doing this. All these all those businesses you told me about, like the breweries and everything. I'm like, please send me, Carla, a ticket like next week, please. I'm going to come in just at least have a visit. I mean, I need to try something new like that. So, I mean, it's just fascinating. And I'm curious, especially going back to the economic part of this, is that, yes, it's like when you talk about taxes and everything else, it's like, and then the printing of money, which the dollar right now is still the fiat, currency. But at the same time, it's you're robbing future generations of other opportunities and just in their own purchasing power, which is just absurd. I mean, we're literally being stolen from in many ways when it comes to that, and it's not fair and it's not right and shouldn't happen. So let's go into that in more detail, because there's countries here in Latin America where I am that are going and using crypto a lot more for purchasing and everything else. So how is that being done well and successful in New Hampshire as a hedge and creating like a certain different means of economic exchange in that way? How is that being done successfully there?
Sure. So Free Staters were actually super early on a lot of the crypto. We had people like Roger Ver came out to the Porcupine Freedom Festival back in, I think probably 2011, 2012 was when we, as the Free State Project, actually started accepting Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as, ways people could pay for events and stuff. So we've actually been in the game fairly early. There are some Free Staters who have been very, very, very successful. I wish I could say I bought my first Bitcoin for $6, so I did all right, but I paid rent with it as well, so there's that trade-off. Wow. But I think because so many of the people we seem to be attracting are kind of pioneers and visionaries. Like my background is I came from Silicon Valley. My husband is a techie software startup guy with lots of patents. We definitely came from sort of that background where we were, we're solution driven and we're looking for opportunities. And I think, crypto really does offer a lot of solutions to a lot of the problems we're seeing. Now it's, it seems like we're in a race, good versus evil. What I was attracted to it for was the fact that it was decentralized. Some of the different coins can actually solve some of the privacy problems, the unbanking. Certainly I'm an immigrant, you live in a different country. A lot of people listening to this understand the nightmares of trying to transfer money between countries, paying that $30 to the yellow guys, all of it is just a frustration. And so I think crypto is going to help with a lot of that. I think because a lot of people are attracted to the ideas of libertarianism and freedom, seem to also be attracted to sort of crypto. And I think it's because these ideas in some way share the commonality of technology. Tech is how the idea of the Free State Project actually originally spread. I'm sure people in the 70s when, America went off the gold standard, there were probably some grumpy dudes sitting around in the living room going, if only we could concentrate together, right? And you would have to build a list and then mail things and maybe send a pigeon or a smoke signal or whatever, right? And then we got the internet and that changed all of that. So it is a lot easier to get our messages out. And even though we are living in this really difficult time, it's very much an opportunity too, because everything's decentralizing and everything's decentralizing according to personal choice. So an example I like to use is if you stand at the back of an airplane at one of the, when they have the fancy ones with the little TVs on the back seats, right? And you watch what people are watching. No one on the airplane is watching the same show. No one. Right? And that's just one airplane. So we've become incredibly spoiled because of the free market. We have all this choice, all this opportunity. And that means that we as humans can start to figure out what's important to us. And we can start to segregate, I guess, according to those values. So, at the turn of the 18th, 19th century, there were only 80 countries, I think, in the world. And now we have over 200 countries, right? When the USSR collapsed, all these little countries formed and it was fine. In Europe, there are small countries like Luxembourg and Monaco that are entirely small countries. So I actually think while, it seems like our global overlords are on the one hand trying to, turn us into, one, global village with, I guess we're going to have one digital kind of money, but, hopefully we'll keep it at this decentralized level. But so what I'm hoping will happen is that, maybe, if you want to be a commie and you want to live in a commune and you want to give all your money, and pool it, history teaches us it doesn't work. That's fine. Go to Vermont and go do it, right? But those of us who want to actually work hard, keep our own money, and be as generous as we want, because, we hear this one narrative that wealthy people are just awful and they're not paying their fair share and all of that. It's not true. I mean, I follow Elon Musk on Twitter, and he's asking on a daily basis, someone tell me where to spend my money to fix these problems, right? And no one really can, because the problem isn't a top-down fixable problem. It's a bottom-up fixable problem, which is why, again, I love what the Free State Project's doing, because it is so bottom up. You were asking questions about how would it work and everything. It's like, it's so decentralized. How will it work? Come see for yourself. Come do it for yourself. If you want it to work a certain way, the only thing stopping you is getting here and then trying to do it.
That's incredible, because I think really the best things that are creating sustainable long-term society are those bottom-up, I'll do it myself, no one's going to do it for me kind of attitude. And that's created really the best parts of pockets of each and every country. I mean, there's places like that, even in Mexico, that just thrive and flourish, because it's like, okay, if I put in that application for that agency to come do this for me, it's going to take 2 years. We're just going to get our neighbors together, do it ourselves, build the dam or build the road, whatever it is, and it's done, right? I mean, it's that attitude, really. And that's really innate with our human spirit, I think, more than anything, which is, what this is all about and what you're doing there, which is absolutely fascinating. And just, Carla, just a couple other questions before we conclude this episode, which I could go on and on forever, but I mean, this is we don't have as much time as we would love to. But tell our global audience, what is PorcFest? What is that exactly? Because they're like pork, belly of a pork, belly of a what? What is that all about? Because it seems really interesting, that event itself.
Sure. So the Porcupine Freedom Festival, PORCFEST.com, PorcFest. It is for the porcupine, because porcupine is actually a peaceful creature, but you don't want to mess with it because it will hurt you defensively, but only defensively. Right. So PorcFest will be taking place in June of next year. It will be our 19th one. So, I'm going to see it through to the 20th PorcFest, and then I think I get to retire or something. It's an amazing event. It's about a week long. It is a camping event that takes place at Rogers Campground in the North Country. Basically, what we do is it's about 2,500 to 3,000 people come together. We camp. There are different hubs. One of the things we highly encourage is that people bring their children and allow them to free range. We like people to bring the kids, and often the kids will come with some kind of product or try and figure out some little, thing they want to sell. So it's a little bit of an entrepreneur's camp, and they run around. And sometimes one year there was a kid and he had these really cute silly cups made of silicone with porcupines on them, and they glowed in the dark, but he wanted like $20, I think, at the start of the week. And I was kind of like, hey kiddo, why don't you go figure out some business stuff and then come back? And by the end of the week, that it was $8. It was the right price. And, so we have programming. There's a lot of family stuff. There's barbecuing. We get, big libertarian names in. Jeffrey Tucker always comes. Dave Smith comes. Tom Woods, so all those guys. But really, it's just a really fun way to come meet the larger community and to really get a sense of, is this going to be the right kind of fit for me? We also do a winter event because we believe in full disclosure, right? And it is cold here. Yes, we have winter. Honestly, if the future is going to be some kind of dystopian lockdown thing, I'm like, I've traveled a lot all over the world. Right. And I was like, there are worse places to be locked down permanently than in a place that has 4 or 5 seasons and where the trees make sugar. So
go there.
Maple syrup. Yeah. So our winter event will be taking place the first weekend in March. And I think that's going to be gangbusters as well. That's always a little smaller. It's maybe like 300-400 people, maybe 500. We do a lot of, more like hands-on. It's a little more political in the sense that we get a lot of the state reps out. We talk about bills. We do all of that, but we also showcase the businesses. So Liberty Forum, a little more suit and tie, but still fun and, great after hours fun and stuff. And then PorcFest in June 20th through the 26th is, and the tickets are ridiculous. They're under $100. You come in your camp. If you're not into camping, there's some really great hotels in the area. You can rent an RV and do some glamping. But it really is a marvelous way to just connect with the community and also just to see what the state has to offer. It is incredibly beautiful in the North Country. And again, if you're going to be stuck someplace, this is a great little country to be stuck in.
I'll keep that in my dystopian to-do list, right? Just mark off the safe havens in any case. But I mean, anyone who is listening or watching this episode and has never seen pictures of New Hampshire, especially with all the seasons that it offers, please check it out today. You'll be blown away. And just everything Carla's talking about related to that with New Hampshire is quite amazing. It's just so picturesque, It's just, you can't beat it. And I just love that you have so many events like that, because part of being in a community and being in a surrounding where people want to do those engaging activities to really bring the society together, just it makes it so fun and warm and enjoyable. And I think that's really missing in a lot of other parts of the world. And, you know, because everything's just so like, I'm going to do my own thing, leave me alone. We're not going to get involved with each other. But having those things to really look forward to, I mean, even with a state that maybe is, again, not so large like California, Texas, etc. I mean, people can come down from many, many parts of the state and be a part of that, I'm sure, you know, and I'm sure it just makes for a really incredible time, you know?
It does. And honestly, we have people can go to fsp.org/calendar, and people are constantly blown away by how many events we have. You know, we have weekly crypto meetup. That's the longest consecutive running crypto meetup in the world. I think it's been going on for like 500 times, it's been a long time. We have our new movers every month where we welcome in new movers. So, you know, we have between 10 and 30 people who've come in that month, and we do a giant potluck for them. We have 3 activity centers across the state now, with a 4th and a 5th one being planned. These are all decentralized. They all have different flavors. Some does more comedy and games. Some do just local, you know, little events. We have a monthly market day that travels around every weekend where people sell, you know, their wares. We have a lot of people just making, you know, maybe you don't want to get the soap with the 90 million chemicals. So you can buy a good soap from a local person where you know who made it, you know what's in it, and you're helping a friend. So while it sounds weird and Amish, it's not.
It's awesome. But I love Amish food. I love Amish furniture. I'm all about that all day and all night, you know?
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, it is about community, right? So someone told me a story the other day, and it really resonated with me because I'd forgotten it. You know, I've been here long enough now where you start to forget those first experiences. But what they said is, it was someone who had moved in the last year, and they said they didn't actually realize how much they were holding back from their authentic self, because they're constantly in an environment where they just bite your tongue, right? You just kind of learn you hear people say things and you disagree, but you just kind of let it slide because you don't want to have that fight, or you don't want to be that guy, right? But then you get to move here and you actually come into a community where you can be your authentic self, because you don't have to pretend 98% of the time that you agree with the nonsense that's being spewed at you by people who do not know what they are talking about. And so this person said, you know, it was this massive relief, I think was the word they used, to be able to actually just be real again. And I thought, oh yeah, I remember when that happened, being at Pork Fest and actually like meeting your tribe and kind of going, oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm not crazy.
I mean, isn't that what we want in the end of the day, though, is just be accepted for who we are and then get along with other people? I mean, it's not more complicated than that, right? I mean, you think it wouldn't be as complicated, but unfortunately, in many parts of the world, we're just demonized for just our own expression. It should not be like that. It's just quite sad. And Carla, just to conclude this scintillating conversation, just really love knowing more about the Free State Project and everything you guys are up to, and just New Hampshire at large. Just unbelievable. I think a lot of people are going to get tremendous value from this. Just to conclude, what are the maybe 1 or 2 things that you're really, really looking forward to coming up in the next years with the Free State Project you're working on? And maybe what are maybe 1 or 2 things as well on the converse side of that are challenges and you're looking to overcome and get better at?
So I'll start with the challenges first so we can end on a high note. Yeah, but I think that, you know, honestly, the biggest challenge we're going to face is the housing shortage in terms of our growth. And I feel like I'm one of those people who are in an interview and I'm like, my perfectionism is my problem, but I don't mean it that way. I genuinely am like, you know, I think we are growing at an incredible rate, and that's exciting, but, you know, that does bring some challenges with it. With that growth, of course, also means that we are becoming more influential in the state, and that honestly is going to start irking, has started to irk the establishment, right? So depending on what the issue is, they can come at us pretty hard in terms of the people who at least have run for office. So I think if we're doing it right, actually, over the long term, we should actually make allies with everyone, because if you're trending towards liberty, then everyone at some stage kind of has to go, oh, okay, I get it. But I do think that we are going to, we're getting flack. People are doing classes across the state saying that we're these invaders and, we're trying to do all these things, but I don't really mind, because my question is always like, what are the things we are trying to do? Okay, let's parse this out, because if we look at what happened over the last year, whenever you go, what's going on? I'm like, just stop for a second and just ask yourself, are you trying to make someone else do something they don't want to do? If your answer is yes, you're in the wrong. If your answer is no, you're fine, right? Like, I'm like, vax yourself till you're purple in the face. Go do what you need to do. If you want to wear 18 masks, wear 18 masks. Everyone do what you need to do, but you don't get to tell other people what they need to do. That's not how freedom works, right? Sure. And so we are going to face challenges. I think we're going to face whatever America as a nation is going to face. We're probably going to face on a small scale. So there will be the socioeconomic issues, more inflation, all of that. But frankly, totalitarianism is great for what I'm trying to accomplish. And so the more the boot comes down, the better for me. We're growing, and we haven't grown this much since 9/11. So, we'll take it. I think that on the plus sides, the things I'm excited about for the future is, I'm hearing people like Ted Cruz seriously talking about states' rights, independence, and secession. I appreciate that sounds, crazy to some people. It would never be something that didn't happen with everyone agreeing upon it. People said Brexit couldn't happen. It did happen. So for me, I think what I would love to see over the next 10 years, I'm going to run for a state senate next year. I'm going to win. And then I am just going to work towards nullification and more independence. We don't want the federal money. I would love to see New Hampshire become incredibly free on banking, money, crypto. Let's become what I call the Yankee Hong Kong, which means we rule with benign neglect, which means everyone just gets to do what they want to do. And we just see what happens when you actually let people live free and thrive.
Amazing. And if you ever get to a certain office, Carla, where you need an ambassador to Mexico, you please remember my name. That would.
Will.
I speak Spanish.
You can just call yourself the ambassador of the Free State of Mexico City. Go for it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's enough territory to cover. Carla, this has been an incredible conversation. Just such a unique type of. I would just say, I don't know what the proper word would be, but I don't want to say just project, because you do say Free State Project, but I think it's growing to something much more important, bigger than that, and it's really encompassing a lot of human spirit, a lot of human, community that is just going to permeate in many, many aspects, not just the United States, but most likely the world. So thank you so much for sharing your time today and talking about the Free State Project. And can you please explain to all of our viewers, listeners, where they can connect with everything that you're doing with the Free State Project, anything associated with it, please?
Sure. So Free State Project is fsp.org. They can find everything from there. PorcFest, Liberty Forum. Come out to our events. It really is the way to meet the community, to see if it's going to be a good fit. We know that when people come, they decide to move. I mean, the whole thing sells itself. You just have to come here and see it. People who want to connect with me, they can find me at carlagericke.com is my website. I do a lot of TV shows and podcasts and blogs and stuff. I have a book, The Ecstatic Pessimist.
Cool.
Stories of hope, mostly. They have some are like award-winning short stories, but there are 13 essays about the Free State Project and the activism I've done over the years here. I'm working on a new book about my court case, so hopefully that'll be coming out next year. And just follow along. We have a really active Twitter account, Free State Project, on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on social. We're everywhere. Subscribe, follow, do all of that good stuff. And follow me because I talk about all the stuff we're doing here all the time. So if you want just little tidbits and snippets of really what life is like in New Hampshire, check me out and come visit.
Excellent. And all our viewers, listeners, go visit, number one, and whatever time of year you want to, what best suits you, warm, cold, in between. Follow Carla, check out her book. We're going to include all of the information in the show notes, description, pinned comments everywhere, so everyone can link and find it and share it, do all that, and find out more about what they're doing. Check out the Free State Legislature website, and you'll see everything that Carla's talking about, and get her tidbits for everything she's sharing about life up there. It's quite amazing, quite incredible. Carla, thank you so much again for your time today. It was absolutely fascinating, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And we will see you all in the next episode of KEAL. Take care, everyone, and we wish you well. All the best.